Greetings everyone, thank you for coming to my channel. In this video, you'll be learning about adverbial clauses of place. And make sure you guys stay tuned because I got some drama to tell you about. But before I tell you guys about that drama, I just wanted to thank you guys for all of your love and support. Thank you for watching my videos, thank you for liking my videos, and thank you for sharing my videos. And if you'd love to be a part of this lovely English community, please subscribe and we'll be happy to have you. Okay, so about my drama. So I'm just gonna start by saying my phone got stolen, but luckily I got it back, but I'm gonna tell you guys how I got it back. So my friend and I, she has a 2-year-old son and my son is 2 as well. He's 2.5, but yeah, he's 2. So they like to play with each other and stuff. So we were at the park yesterday and I didn't realize we were in a sketchy neighborhood, which is crazy because I used to work in this neighborhood and there would be like sketchy people coming to my job. But I didn't realize that the park was right next to where I used to work until after the fact. So there was a bunch of bums and stuff over there. So I was swinging my friend's child and my child on the swing, and I was dialed in on them because, you know, they're toddlers. If you don't pay attention to them and watch their every move, they'll try to run off or get into stuff. So I was focused on them. So behind me, not directly behind me, but kind of off in the distance, my friend was sitting at a little bench and my phone was sitting on that bench. But my friend was facing away from my phone and she was on an interview, so she was focused on her phone call. And I didn't expect her to be focused on my phone because, like, who steals a phone anyway? Like, why are you coming to a children's park, a children's area, and stealing stuff? That's crazy work. So while my friend and I had our backs turned, this person stole my phone, but I didn't know that until another sketchy individual came to the park and, you know, got our attention. He was like, "Hey, did you guys see that person walk by that table and swipe something?" I was like, "Wait, swipe something?" My phone was sitting there. And he was like, "Yeah, he walked by here. He had a yellow tint and this and that, and he swiped something off that table." And I was like, "Oh shoot, that was my phone." So I asked the dude if he could come with me to find the dude because, you know, I don't like going by myself because, you know, anything could happen. So luckily this dude was like, "Yeah, I'll come with you." So he drove his car around the neighborhood looking for the dude. He couldn't find him. I asked multiple people, like, had they seen that person? They said he ran this way. One person said he ran that way. So it's like I'm running in multiple directions until one lady told me exactly where she thought he would be. So I walked down there and sure enough, I saw the yellow tent, but it was covered with a blanket. And I was like, "Hey, could you come out the tent so I could see you?" Because, you know, I didn't want to accuse that person of doing something if they didn't do it. And plus, I didn't know what the person looked like, so I needed to see them. The one dude that was driving around the neighborhood helping me look for him, he gave me a description of the dude. He said he was black and, you know, he had the yellow tint and everything. So I saw that it was a yellow tint, but I just wanted to make sure that the person in the tent was black. So dude is refusing to come out of the tent. He's like, "Leave me alone." And then luckily the dude that was helping me look for the thief pulled up and confronted the dude, and he pulled the blanket off of his tent. He was like, "Dude, I know it was you. I saw you walk past the table and swipe the phone." And, you know, they're going back and forth. And so we're threatening the dude, like we're threatening to call the police and whatnot, and he's still being dishonest. So after a while, I'm just like, whatever. And I walked off, and like 10 feet from the tent, my phone was right there. I'm thinking he threw my phone because my friend called my phone multiple times, but I guess we'll never know. But I'm just glad that I got my phone back because I need my pictures and some of my stuff isn't backed up in iCloud. But yeah, that's all for my drama. Now let's get to the video. An adverbial clause of place is a dependent clause that modifies verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. An adverbial clause of place acts as an adverb and it tells us where something happened. A dependent clause is also known as a subordinate clause. A dependent clause can have a subject and a verb, but it's not a complete thought. Not every dependent clause has a subject and a verb, but most do. Dependent clauses, examples. So our first example says when the food is done. So notice how there's a subject food and a verb is, but this isn't a complete thought. Our second example says because of the terrible weather. So this example doesn't have a subject or a verb, but it's a complete or an incomplete thought, And our third and final example says until you complete your homework. So this example has a subject you and a verb complete, but it's not a complete thought. So here are the words we use to make an adverbial clause of place: anywhere, where, everywhere, and wherever. So we're going to start with where. Our first example says, I hid where my son wouldn't be able to find me. So the whole adverbial clause of place is where my son wouldn't be able to find me, but we had to use the word where. Our second example says, I slept where it was peaceful and quiet. So the whole adverbial clause of place says where it was peaceful and quiet, but we had to use the word where. And our third and final example says, don't park where you see the red cones. So the whole clause says where you see the red cones, but we had to use the word where to create that clause. Next, we have wherever. So our first example says, drive your car wherever your heart desires. So the whole adverbial clause of place says wherever your heart desires, but we had to use the word wherever to create this clause. Our second example says, please sit wherever you see an open spot. So the whole clause says wherever you see an open spot, but we had to use the word wherever to create this clause. And our third and final example says, I will go wherever the weather is beautiful. So the whole clause says wherever the weather is beautiful, but we had to use the word wherever to create this clause. And notice how in each example, the clause is modifying the verb. So in the first example, the clause is modifying the verb drive. In the second example, the clause is modifying the verb sit. And in the third example, the clause is modifying the verb go, or the verbs will go. Next, we have anywhere. So our first example says, my dog pees anywhere he feels comfortable. So the clause, the adverbial clause of place, says anywhere he feels comfortable, but we had to use the word anywhere to create that clause. And the clause is also modifying the verb pees. My dog pees. Our second example says, anywhere you look in Seattle, you will see beautiful scenery. So this one's kind of tricky, well, at least to me, because the adverbial clause comes first and not second. But the clause is modifying the verb see. You will see beautiful scenery. Our third and final example says, anywhere you see my friends, you will see me. So the adverbial clause of place, which says anywhere you see my friends, is modifying the verb see. And lastly, we have everywhere. So our first example says, everywhere we go, my friend argues with people. So the clause, the adverbial clause of place, says everywhere we go, and it's modifying the verb argues. Our second example says, my son has traveled everywhere you can think of. So our adverbial clause of place says everywhere you can think of, and it's modifying the verb traveled. Our third and final example says, I want to be remembered everywhere I go. Our adverbial clause of place says everywhere I go, and it's modifying the verb remembered. Well, there were multiple verbs in that example, but the main verb is remembered. If the adverbial clause of place is at the beginning of the sentence, you must put a comma after it. So in each of these examples, you will see that there's a comma after the adverbial clause of place, and that's because the adverbial clause of place is at the beginning of the sentence and not the end. So our first example says, everywhere I go, I want to be remembered. Our second example says, wherever you see an open spot, please sit. And our third and final example says, where it was peaceful and quiet, I slept. If the adverbial clause of place is at the end of the sentence, you don't need to use a comma. So these are the same examples that I used in the previous slide, but the adverbial clause of place is at the end of the sentence instead of being at the beginning of the sentence. So notice how we didn't use a comma because the adverbial clause of place is at the end of the sentence. So our first example says, I want to be remembered everywhere I go, no comma. Our second example says, please sit wherever you see an open spot, no comma. And our third and final example says, I slept where it was peaceful and quiet, no comma. That concludes our video. Thank you guys for coming. I hope you found this video informative. If you did find this video informative, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or all of the above, and I'll see you next time.